Welcome back, everyone. Today, I am going to show you how you can go about performing an if statement in 5 minutes or less. So, many people have issues with the if statement because essentially it is almost as if you're speaking a new language when you're writing some of the functions, within a spreadsheet program. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using Google Docs, but the same premise holds true if you're using Microsoft Excel or any spreadsheet program rather. Now, an if statement really is a function that allows you to check a scenario and return a condition if that scenario is true or false. We could essentially compare that to a question that somebody might ask you in the real world. So, for example, is it raining outside? Here is the, let me make it a little bit larger. So here is the check, right? Here is a check. Let's call this a check. And essentially what we're doing here is checking if it's raining outside or not, right? When you ask this question, the person that responds would either respond with a yes, it is raining outside, or a no, it is not raining outside, right? And so we have both uh, true if our check here is true, and we have a false value if our check here is not true, right? So we have a logical check in the if statement that we could liken to a question being asked in the real world: is it raining outside? That's our check, and if it is, if that is it turns out to be true, what should happen if it is, right? In this case, the answer is yes, and if not, then the answer is no. All right. And essentially, this is what an if statement does for you in Excel. It takes that real world scenario and it allows you to incorporate that into some sort of function within a spreadsheet program. So let's look at how that would work. So, a quick example. Let's say you have a company. Let's say you have a company where you fix cars, right? And the persons who take the cars into you sometimes they owe money on I guess their bill, or they owe um after a few months, and you want to decide, or you want your employees to be able to open a sheet and determine if a particular client owes the company or not, right? So without without formatting our Excel sheet, we're not worried about the aesthetics right now. The only thing that what we'd like to do here is to essentially show how an if statement would work in a particular scenario, in a specific scenario, right? So I'm gonna have a label for our clients, right? And let's just say, in the interest of time, this is client one and client two, and I'm gonna drag this down somewhat. So we have client one through six, right? And let's say we have a 30-day past due amount, right? And we could, each time that client comes in and makes a payment or not, or puts work on credit, something along those lines, we could either enter the credit here or enter how much a person owes, or if they paid, right? So if a client paid and has no past due balance, of course that is zero. If not, well, 15,000 is high, let's say 1,500. If not, then we would be putting in, or the person who is handling the Excel or the spreadsheet would be putting in the values accordingly, right? So we have the past due balance here that speaks to how much that person owes, right? Now let's just say that we would like to apply uh, some type of penalty to the balance that a person has, right? And let's say that penalty is 15%. We could do 15%. We could do $100. For it to be really easy for us right now, let's just say we're going to charge $100 if let's just say that there's a fixed penalty of $100 if if a particular client owes in the in the uh in the 30-day past due section. All right. So I do like to at least have some type of formatting that separates the different types of labels within and values within my sheet. So here I have my clients and here I have the past due section, right? And here's my fixed penalty of $100 that I'm now going to apply if the client owes money or not. Okay, so I'm going to now enter a label for my if statement inside of C1. I'm going to enter, let's say, uh, apply fixed penalty. And these are just quick, this is just a quick example. So let's just say we're going to apply some fixed penalty here. And um, I'm applying a fixed penalty if the client owes 30 days or more, right? Inside my C2 column, I'm going to start with my equal sign in Excel. This is how you start with your formula. I'm going to enter the if function here, which is what I'm looking for in Excel, gives you the logical expression and it gives you the value if true and the value if false, right? Those three things I had mentioned before. The first check, is it raining outside? That's your logical expression or your check. And afterwards, your value if true would be that yes, is if it's raining, Excel would return a yes. Or if you had raining in a cell, then Excel would return a yes. That's the value if true. If not, then whatever value you have in our previous case, it would be no, would be entered inside that cell. You will notice here that each part of your formula is separated by a comma, and the actual function is inside the parentheses here. All right, inside the brackets here. So when you start your if statement, you need to start with if and then open brackets, and then you insert inside here your logical expression, which is your check, and then a comma when you're done with that check. Sometimes the check is long, right? The check might be to check if A2 is is text or is a number, or to check if B2 is greater than or equal to a number. So the logical check might change, right? When you're done, comma, then your value. In this case, we're going to check, and you could pause the video here to see if you could put your checks in yourself based on the scenario that we currently have. In this case, we're going to check if, and we're looking at B2 here. So we're going to check if B2, and you could pause again to see if you could essentially finish the statement here. If B2 is greater than 0, right? Because if it is greater than 0, it means that they owe a balance. If it is if it is not greater than 0, then they don't owe anything, right? So if B2 is greater than 0, that's your check. You want to check if B2 is greater than 0. Once you're done with that check, you put your comma. And now you have to think about what should happen if B2 is actually greater than 0. Pause the video here once more and put your answers in. But essentially, if B2 is greater than 0, my value, if true, should be B9, where I had entered the fixed penalty of $100, right? So I'm going to enter B9 here, or click on B9. You could also type it in directly. And if you're done with your true value, of course, your true value could be even longer. It could be B9 minus something. It could be B9 times something. It could be a percentage, and so forth and so on. But if this is your true value and you're done with your true value, you put your comma in there. And once you're done with that true value comes the false value. So now you have to think about, what should I be doing, or what should the spreadsheet be doing if it is false? In other words, if B2 is not greater than 0, what should happen? If it's not, it means they don't owe anything. And so I would put a 0 in there. In other words, we won't be charging the client anything, right? Now, if you look back at your function here, you know that you open the bracket. And when you do that, you ask Excel, or the spreadsheet program rather, to work out some function within that bracket, but you also need to tell the program, hey, I'm done now. And so essentially you have to close that door that you had opened. All right. Um, One thing we might want to do, and we'll cover this in another instance, is um, we could make B9 absolute, where we could click and drag down, so we wouldn't have to enter the formula all over again. But we'll do it in the other instances, just so that we have a working copy of the formula within the sheet. All right. So once you're done, hit enter, and just like that, you'll note that this is now 0. So if you have an employee who is opening this sheet and who just wants to know if the client should be charged or not, then the employee would look in this cell and be able to tell that they should not be charged here, right? So the same premise holds true. I could essentially put the same formula inside here, and this time it is not B2 anymore, but B3. And we're saying the same thing as before. If B3 is greater than 0, then we apply the 100. And if not, it's 0. Just those three conditions. Once you're done, hit enter, and you'll note that for this uh, client, yes, we are going to apply that $100. All right. So this is essentially how the if statement works. You would do your logical check first. Once you're done with your logical check, you would put your true value, your comma, to denote that you're done with that check, and then your true value, and then a comma noting that you're done with that true value, and then your false value. If you remember those three things and you remember the comma, then it becomes a lot easier for you to write if statements on your own, because it essentially is a little bit different from the way in which we would do it in the real world. But if you would liken it to a scenario within the real world, and just remember those commas and those brackets, you will be well on your way. All right.